Start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our AppConsult video podcast. I'm Matteo, and today I have the pleasure to be here with my usual buddy, Mark.
Hi there.
And we have also Robert. You met him in the first episode. He's the tech lead of the Windows AppConsult team. Welcome, Robert.
Hello.
And today it's all about build. So we just came out from a very busy week, especially for us from AppConsult, because, well, we will talk about this in another episode, but we ran the one-on-one consultations. So it was a pretty intense week with around 200 consultations delivered, customers from all around the world. But it was fun, and for the first time this year, Build was a digital experience, as you probably know, because due to the COVID situation, it couldn't be a physical experience, so it turned into digital. It was a great experiment, because a great initiative, because this year the Build team didn't just streamed some keynotes and sessions, but there were a lot of interactive activities, focus groups, Q&A sessions, so many ways to engage with the teams. Today we would like to share with you our highlights around Build, so the top 3 technologies that the top 3 announcements that we like the most and that will probably have the biggest impact on our work and our activities. Yeah. So we will start with Mark, who is going to talk about WinUI. So I'll share the stage with him.
All right.
And
although WinUI is not new, what we announced was the preview availability of WinUI 3, and the main idea of the WinUI 3 version is, or the mission statement is, WinUI 3 will provide a state-of-the-art UX framework for every Windows developer. Now, what is WinUI and why is it already in version 3? I haven't heard of it on version 2. Well, WinUI is a platform for Windows apps for both Win32 and UWP. And by incorporating the Fluent design language into its styles and controls, WinUI can provide a consistent and modern UI experience, similar to the one you see on Windows 10. It brings support for both Win32 and UWP apps. So with the help of XAML islands, you can already build now the modern UIs from ground up, or migrate existing MFC, WinForms, or WPF apps at your own pace and use familiar coding languages like C#, C++, which everyone loves, VB.NET, or JavaScript via React Native for Windows. And as I said, there are currently 2 versions of WinUI available, which is the version 2.4 currently, and the 3.0 preview. And let's start with the WinUI 2 one, just very quick. This one is going to be used, or it can be used in UWP applications right now, and is basically, or can also used in your existing Win32 desktop applications or WinForms or WPF applications through XAML Islands. You probably have heard of it, XAML Islands before. The drawback is, however, that it's very tightly coupled into the UWP SDK. So this means whenever you use WinUI 2, you just basically take the whole UWP SDK with you. The good thing is it maintains some kind of backwards compatibility with earlier versions of Windows 10. So it's also available for users that aren't on the latest OS version right now. We have there's a little, I don't see the slides right now, but there is.
I'm showing the graph about how right now there are 2 separate silos, as you were explaining. XAML Islands right now is the only way to hook up.
Exactly. Exactly. So we have WinUI 2 controls and styles, and this entirely goes through the UWP SDK, making this available to the, like, say, regular Xbox, HoloLens, Surface, Hub, and devices, IT. So everything that is incorporating UWP. But if you want to use this in your existing Win32 application, you have to go through XAML Islands. And therefore, you are still tied to the UWP SDK. This is, as I said, this is going to change with the WinUI 3.0 preview. Basically, this is where the fun with WinUI 3.0 begins, because all XAML composition and input APIs are now completely decoupled from the UWP SDK. And it is basically now the UI layer on your UWP or Win32 app. The XAML Island support for the app modernization is still supported, so that is not gone. But it allows you, but with that being like completely decoupled, this allows the team to provide more frequent updates outside of the regular OS update cycle. And it obviously brings the latest Fluent Design editions, and this allows like for a faster turnaround cycle with development and new features. The UWP SDK will not go away. It will still contain the app and security models, media pipelines, Xbox Win 10 shell integrations, device support, and so on. However, the existing UWP XAML APIs will no longer receive feature updates. They will only receive security updates and critical fixes. So basically everything shifts to WinUI 3.0 once it's released. As you can see with the next slide, with the so the silos have been removed. WinUI 3 is basically now the entire the UI platform, spanning over or allowing every type of application to work with it. Without the need for XAML islands and stuff like that. Although, as I said, it's still available for other type of projects. Now, how do we get there? We are currently with the first publicly available preview. Basically, this is like the left part, like the May 2020 part. We have now the added Win32 support. It's available in everybody's favorite language, C++. It's available in .NET 5, .NET Native for UWP apps. So there will be a new preview around June, like next month, hopefully, and a couple of stability updates. In early fall, late summer, it's gonna be all open sourced, and there will be, probably to Ignite, there will be a new preview, the preview 3. And basically when things get interesting, because stabilization starts and stuff like this will be in November, around November. So if you're, so now you can start playing with it, getting the hang of it. But if you want to start like doing something more lasting, let's put it that way, November 2020 would be probably the best time to start. And next year, in spring, around spring, the preview 5 will hit the release folder of GitHub. Now, what do you need to get started? Basically, you need a Windows 10 machine with 1803 or higher, which is the build 17134 or something. You need the Visual Studio 2019 preview, and the preview is important. You have to enable the .NET desktop development and UWP platform development workload. If you want to build C++ apps, the desktop development with C++ workload needs to be added, and the C++ Universal Windows Platform Tools component from the UWP workloads needs to be manually added as well.
These are the first workload you installed, I guess.
Totally. Totally. And if you are interested in, if for some reasons you're not so deep into C++, but prefer some other .NET languages, you need the .NET 5 preview in order to run the samples or to build own projects. So the Visual Studio being set up, you need the WinUI 3 Preview VSIX, which is the extension which brings you all the project templates, brings you a couple of, or will bring you the latest binaries, because the binaries aren't available through the public NuGet preview feeds yet. So you have to take the VSIX for that in order to get this. So yeah, once you have this, you should be able to see all the amazing WinUI 3 project types in your create new project window of your Visual Studio preview. And then you can start hacking. What can you do with it? So there is available. There is the XAML controls gallery available to give you some kind of direction, what controls are available, where you can go with it. And this one is available on GitHub. We're going to post the links probably in the show notes. And there's also, I don't know if you have seen this demo, the last one, I don't know, some guy on the podcast made this one. And yeah, so basically this is how this could look in a Win32 application. So as you can see, the color sliders on the bottom left are WinUI 3 already. And this is embedded into a complete Win32 application, which consists of like multiple different technologies and is written in C++. So yeah, that's it with WinUI 3. So get started with it. It's an interesting pattern, and it's finally we have a UI layer abstraction for all the platforms or all the development styles on Windows. Yeah, one more thing though, because I get asked this a lot. So no support for Windows 7. I'm sorry.
Well, it's out of support. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can use Uno for that, but no, just upgrade, guys. Just upgrade your Windows machines.
No, this is really impressive because it also helps to achieve one of the goals that many developers were asking. So a lot of developers were interested in the WinUI store, in the Windows 10 UI layer, because you get for free a lot of controls with accessibility, touch support. But in many cases, starting from scratch or using the whole UWP sandbox model was challenging, especially some enterprises at applications. So it's good to see that now you will be able to use the full power of the WinUI layer with any existing application. And actually, this is part of a bigger effort, which is called Project Reunion, which is basically the goal is to decouple all the Windows 10 APIs from the operating system to NuGet packages. WinUI is the first bright example of this. So the whole XAML framework is being detached to a NuGet package. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Okay, thank you for that intro. That was really interesting, and also the last application you demoed, the one you helped to build, was a great example of how you can use WinUI in a real scenario. Give the stage to Robert, where he's going to talk about MAUI.
Yeah. Before jumping into the slides, I just want to call out that I'm wearing my Hawaiian-style hat and got my MAUI character.
Totally subtle.
Background. I'm totally very, very excited about MAUI. So, maybe some of you heard the announcements at Build. There was a really awesome presentation called Journey to One.net by both Scott Hanselman and Scott Hunter. And a part of that presentation, they talked about MAUI. Are we showing the first slide?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so MAUI stands for Multi-Platform App UI, and it includes a new project system for cross platform tooling. It simplifies your project structure into a single project that targets multiple platforms, including iOS and Android and Windows. It's really the evolution of Xamarin Forms. So Xamarin's been around for a long time, I think like 6 years. And Xamarin Forms will continue to ship just minor service releases every 6 weeks until .NET 6, which goes to general availability November 2021. But it's really this transformation, particularly of the namespace. So it's going to become system.maui. And it allows you to target really easily different target platforms. You'll always have access to the underlying OS APIs, but it'll be a lot easier for you to do like new platform-specific integrations. You can add source files for specific operating systems, and then you can continue to access their native APIs. This is all brand new. We can go to the roadmap here. So if we look at the roadmap of what's coming with MAUI, the Xamarin iOS and Xamarin.Android libraries will become part of .NET 6, and because they're projections of the SDKs that are shipped from Apple and Google, nothing's really going to change there. However, the build tooling, the target framework monikers, the runtime framework monikers, those will all be updated to match the .NET 6 workloads. And if we look at each of the releases that are coming up, so the preview 1 comes late 2020, and that includes the main change of Xamarin.Forms becoming system.maui. The namespace changes. That's in preview 1. And then preview 1 also includes this slim render architecture. And then preview 2, that's where we introduce the cross-platform lifecycle. Preview 3, which is coming up early 2021. That's the goal for that one is Mac OS parity. And then preview 4 is Windows parity. All the way up till .NET 6 becomes general availability in November 2021. It's pretty exciting changes coming. So here's some of the screenshots that shows you like the project layout, shows you how you can target different devices, including directly out to your iOS device. You can do it on an emulator, or you can target the actual device. Same with Android. And does it generate all of the iOS and Android images based on a single image? Yes. So it'll resize your image assets to 2 times, 3 times, or high DPI, and it uses multi-targeting, so it allows you to reference platform-specific APIs in this unified .NET MAUI project. So you'll be able basically to add your images, your fonts, your translation files all into one single project. It'll automatically set up the native hooks for you, so you can just focus on your code. If you're coming from a Xamarin Forms developer background, then it should be really familiar for you. It's primarily this namespace change. So if you're migrating projects, and they're going to provide, by the way, migration documents similar to what was provided for .NET Core. So if you're moving from Xamarin, it should be really easy to move to MAUI. That's good news. A lot of big customers are already leveraging Xamarin to do multi-platform targeting. And then, yeah, so you can hit the ground running if you're doing that migration. It's all the same controls, the same APIs that you've already gotten familiar with. And then as they get closer to release, they're going to provide try-convert support. You know how you can leverage that at runtime to do try-conversion, as well as the migration guides that I already mentioned. You can see in the screen, you write it once, build it out for Android, build it out for iOS or Windows. There's even been some talk about Blazor support, and there's some more information coming about that later. Potentially, they're investigating it now. So the IDE, the programming story, is big for MAUI as well. It's part of their vision, and you can use Visual Studio for Mac. You can use the regular Visual Studio 2019 that you're probably using today, or even Visual Studio Code. And it'll be available in all of those. It'll support the existing MVVM, model view model, and XAML. So if you like writing it in XAML, you can continue doing that. And they'll also be introducing future capabilities like the new model view update. If you're familiar with like the Elm programming model, it's really useful, especially for doing like hot reload, where you can make changes and then view it in the IDE right away. Ideally suited for that. So anyway, I'm super excited about MAUI. It is this convergence of .NET into a single project structure that will allow you to easily target multiple platforms and OSs, including WPF. So for our customers, which are the Windows Client developer customers, this is the holy grail, right? This is what they've been asking for years. And the information about it, I'm exploring it. There's GitHub with a lot of the bits out there if you want to go today and start exploring it yourself. It's a good place to get started. I don't know which slide we're on right now, but I'm looking at the last one that is the MVU pattern, the Elm programming. Yeah. That's any comments from you guys? I mean, that's the information that I have so far.
So yeah, that's pretty impressive. So it's indeed a lot from Xamarin Forms, but it brings Xamarin Forms to the next level. Not just because of the new macOS support and so on, but also the new project layout and the new project configuration seems better, seems a much cleaner and much simpler to understand.
Yeah, I mean, my first impressions are it feels like .NET programming, right? Whereas, instead of having to do a lot of spaghetti code and runtime detection and different implementations on different OSs, it really feels like the pieces are coming together here. So I'm super excited about MAUI. And I really hope that Blazor comes into that picture too, because then you're going to have an entire, including web, really just write it once.
Yeah, indeed.
What is interesting, when we bought Xamarin, there was a Reddit AMA on the whole .NET story, Mono story. And one of the most upvoted question was actually, will Xamarin eventually move to .NET Core, which was new at that point as well? And the answer was back then, currently there are no plans, because obviously if we are going to do the shift, we can't add new features, obviously, because they stick to the mono. But now that everything is stabilized in that matter and it's working quite well, they can just actually start bringing all this together. And this is, for me, this is amazing news. This is great, because finally we have then one big foundation which serves basically all the different .NET stories.
And MAUI to rule them all, right? And in the dark.
Yeah. Also, the name is great.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm excited to learn more about that, and at some point, hopefully, be able to do a demo. But it's too early for that right now.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so last topic of the day is on a similar note, because we are still talking about cross-platform development. But with different technologies. So we are talking about React Native. Right now, there's a big effort around React Native from Microsoft. One question could be, why is that if we have already Xamarin or MAUI? Well, the reason is that Xamarin is tailored for client developers, so for people who have skills around C#, XAML, Visual Studio, and so on. React Native achieves the same goal of Xamarin, but it's more friendly for web developers. So you use JavaScript, you use web tools like NPM, and so on. Which is the work that the Microsoft teams are doing? Well, React Native was born from, it's not from Microsoft, it's a Facebook framework, and it was born for mobile scenarios with iOS and Android. Now with Microsoft, we are moving to a Windows support. So at Build last year, we have announced support for Windows, and we have started to build a C++ core for React Native, which is now shipped in production, and it can be used for production application. Recently, however, we have announced that with React Native, we want to support not just Windows, but all the desktop experiences. So the React Native at Microsoft team is working, and actually it's already released in preview, also macOS support. So now you can target also macOS with the same code you use for Windows, iOS, and Android. One advantage of the C++ core is that we can move fast to match the React Native implementation by Facebook. So one of the announcements coming out from Build is that we have already the first preview out for React Native, which targets the 0.62 version of React Native. React Native is similar to Xamarin in terms of final experience for the user, because React Native basically uses JavaScript for the development experience, but under the hood it goes into the native layer to create the application and to talk with the native APIs. So we have Swift and Objective-C on iOS, Java on Android, C++, C Sharp, WinUI on Windows, and Swift and Objective-C on macOS. So the final output of a React Native application is a native application with similar performance to an application built with the native tools. In similar way, like Xamarin and Xamarin Forms, they don't create a wrapper. They translate into a native application. So this means native access to all the features offered by the platform. So you can create plugins, modules, which you access with JavaScript, but under the hood, they use native code. And you get feature parity in terms of performance, UI feature, controls that you can use, and so on. Which are the three main developer benefits of React Native? Well, the first one is that if you are a web developer, you can build apps for Windows and macOS with JavaScript or TypeScript. This doesn't mean that if you are a web developer, you are also a mobile developer out of the box, because React Native is not a web wrapper. So you still need to learn and understand the native layer of the platform and how it works. But still, you don't have to learn a new language, new tooling. You can use what you use today to build web applications. The other benefit is that, as I mentioned, you get a fully native experience. And this slide shows you an example. So you have a picker, which is a control that you can declare in the UI of a React Native application. And this picker, it's translated with the native picker experience on iOS, Android, and Windows. So you write the code once, but you get a familiar experience on each platform. And then the last benefit is that sometimes the challenge when you do client development, if you are a web developer, is that during web development you are used to a fast developer tool, a fast web-like developer tool. So basically you make some changes, you refresh the browser, and you see the changes live. React Native helps you to achieve the same goal through features like fast refresh, which helps you basically to type some changes in Visual Studio Code and having the application running on your PC or on your phone automatically refreshed with the latest changes. So you can really iterate very fast on building your application. We have many partners right now who are using React Native for Windows, either internal and external. So in Microsoft itself, we are using React Native for pieces of Office, for the Xbox app, the Mixer app, Facebook, the latest Messenger app is using React Native. So we have a lot of use cases where React Native is proving to be a good solution for people who want to build a native application, but they have a web background. And how you can start today? Well, we have a very good website where you can find all the documentation. You can find all the commands, all the requirements you need to have for building applications. And if you are a web developer, I would take a look at this, because you can build a really native Windows application. You can even build modules that can integrate through WinUI and XAML Islands to existing technologies. So you can have a UWP app or a WPF app which has a module, a piece of UI, which is rendered through React Native. You can see samples in Office today. Office is a huge native application, but there are some items like the review panel for comments and so on, which are rendered through React Native and shared across multiple platforms and technologies. Okay, so that was it from my side. That was my top from build. There were a lot of things interesting from build, but React Native is one of the technologies where in which I'm working a lot these days. So it was nice to see all these announcements coming in.
Well, and we can mention we did a lot of work on the React Native demos that were shown at Build as well. You know, kudos to you and the team for doing that work.
Yeah, it was a nice learning experience also for us. Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay, so I think we can wrap up the episode for today. So it was nice. We shared some of the highlights from Build, either because these are the technologies in our team we work most with every day, and also because, I won't hide that, as Robert just mentioned, many of the showcased that you saw at Build in various sessions or activities around these technologies came from us, from our team. So this was also a great learning experience for us. So stay in touch. We are planning to show more about what we did at Build with another episode. This time we will invite some friends from the Azure AppConsult team to help talk about the experience we had. For the moment, stay tuned, and thanks for joining. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.